and unmute your mics.
Houston Public Works is responsible for the daily tasks you may take for granted. You may not notice us, but we work around the clock to support you. We are the foundation for life in Houston. Houston Water distributes enough fresh water to fill the Astrodome 4 times a day. Transportation and drainage operations handle 16,000 miles of streets. Over 1 million signs and street names and thousands of drains. The Houston Permitting Center regulates hundreds of projects so you can work, play, and live safely. Customer Account Services ensures 2.1 million people have access to safe drinking water with efficiency, accuracy, and flexibility. Capital Projects manages the critical improvements that make Houston better every single day. Houston is always moving towards growth, innovation, and progress. We are the largest, most diverse public works organization in the country. We are one team with one purpose. Together, we create a strong foundation for Houston to thrive.
All right, good evening, and thank you for participating in our live virtual community meeting today. My name is Kenya Williams with Houston Public Works. The goal of today's meeting is to keep you informed and know what to expect during construction of the 72-inch water line along Kipling and Branard from Mount Vernon to Richmond project. Before we begin, I would kindly ask if you could hold all questions until the end of our presentation. Many of the answers you're looking for will be answered within the presentation, and so we'd like to respectfully ask for your full attention at this time. Later, we will open the questions and answers session at the end of the presentation. Here at Houston Public Works, we believe that together we create a strong foundation for Houston to thrive. There are 5 service lines at Houston Public Works. Today's meeting is presented by Capital Projects. Here today, we have representatives from District C. And at this time, does anyone from District C would like to make any remarks at this time? Anyone from District C? Okay, moving right along. We also have here is the Interim Assistant Director for Capital Projects, Marcos Mangesha. He will introduce the project team responsible for this project to you. Marcos.
Thank you, Kenya. All right, good evening. Thank you, the District C Council member, residents, and stakeholders attending this meeting. Thank you all for taking your time to participate in this meeting to discuss the upcoming 72-inch water line project. The City of Houston Surface Water Program is created to comply with the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District requirement and to implement city's long-term regionalization plan. This program is a part of the City of Houston long-range water supply plan. A secondary southwest pump station refill line was recommended to provide redundancy, reliability for existing 66-inch water line along Richmond Avenue, and to increase capacity to the southwest pump station. The 72-inch water line was recommended to be constructed over multi-phase, multi-year process, beginning at the existing 72-inch water line along Dowling, continuing to the southwest pump station. The implementation of the 72-inch water line is divided into 4 construction packages. The first 2 packages are already in construction. This project is the 3rd package of the proposed 72-inch water line program and runs from Mount Vermont to Richmond Avenue along Kipling, Woodhead, Branard, and Greenbrier. The scope of this project includes 72-inch water line, pavement replacement, and sidewalk improvement along the alignment. Now, I would like to take a moment and thank the project team who are attending today. Kuruva Pandurunga, he is a managing engineer in Houston Public Works. Singapore Sekhun, supervising engineer in Houston Public Works. George Habib, project manager in Houston Public Works. And Jeff Hufflin, he is a project manager for a construction company, Mainland Industries. Kenya, you can take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcos. Let's talk about this project, how to prepare for construction, and who to contact. Houston Public Works is committed to building forward and not building back the same way. The purpose of this project is to install a 72-inch water line along Kipling, Woodhead, Branard, and Greenbrier from Mount Vernon to Richmond, and includes improvements to the area's water lines, sanitary and storm system, and new concrete pavement. This $36.6 million water project is expected to take approximately 23 months. Work is scheduled to begin in fall of 2022 and anticipated to be completed in summer of 2024. The project schedule will depend on weather conditions. The contractor will work Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. However, extenuating circumstances may require limited work to take place on Sundays. The contractor is Mainland Industries and the project manager is George Habib. The scope of this project is to include improvements in large diameter water lines, pavement, sidewalks, drainage, small diameter wastewater and water utilities, traffic signals, street signs, street lights, and overall mobility and safety for the public. There are a total of 4 phases to this project. Phase 1 in orange will start in fall of 2022 to fall of 2022. Phase 2 in green will begin in winter of 2023 to spring of 2023. Phase 3 in red will commence in summer of 2023 to winter of 2024. And the last phase, phase 4 in yellow, will start in spring of 2024 to summer of 2024. These phases are subject to change. To receive the very latest updates, make sure to subscribe to the project page on engagehouston.org. So what do the seasons mean? Our construction timeline is as follows. Winter constitutes January, February, March. Spring is April, May, June. Summer is July, August, September. And fall is October, November, and December. So what to anticipate during these construction phases? Our advice is to organize, don't agonize. So if you prepare for construction, the time it takes to complete the project will fly by. The first step to getting organized is keep your door hanger. These door hangers pertain pertinent contact information in case you have further questions or concerns. If your dog ate your door hanger, no worries. You can go to the project page online to view the contact information there at engagehouston.org. If you have objects in the right-of-way, please remove them now as soon as possible. If you have specific landscaping that you would like to be saved, we suggest that you relocate such plant materials now. Grass will be restored in areas upon completion of all construction. For most of the properties in the area, the City of Houston project right-of-way will extend about 2 feet from back of curb. However, sanitary sewer line replacement will leave some residents with open excavations in their yards at times. As a result of this and related capital improvement projects, the city and the contractors are granted full access into this right-of-way. Once complete, the contractor is required to restore the impacted area of the grounds to the City of Houston standards. So again, if you have objects in the right-of-way, please remove them as soon as possible. And meet the project team. This includes the contractor, the inspectors, and the project manager. Homeowners associations and local business owners are invited to attend the monthly contractor status meeting that will allow them to provide periodic updates to the community. Updates will also be posted to the project page on engagehouston.org. So remember to subscribe and receive the latest and greatest updates as they become available. The contractor has a restoration plan for all properties. Once the project is complete, the contractor is required to restore the impacted area to the city's standards. Please do not make repairs yourself. Restoration typically starts once the project is complete. The city does not approve final payment to the contractor until they complete their own assessment to ensure restoration is sufficient. We recommend that you document current conditions by taking pictures of your property in the right-of-way area near the street and curb. The pictures should resolve any questions when it comes time for the contractor to repair or replace any items. What if your property has an improved specialty driveway or walkway? If this portion of your driveway or walkway is located in the right-of-way area, the city is only required to return the driveway access points to the City of Houston codes and standards. If warranted, special provisions will be considered, but all related costs of improvements over and above the City of Houston standards will be at the sole cost of the property owner by the contractor of your choice. One example is a decorative or pebbled walkway or driveway. The contractor will be unable to replace with like product, and the city will not guarantee this work. Please be aware and obey all construction signs and barriers. Safety is priority number one for everyone involved in this project. For your safety and ours, please pay attention to the following safety objects shown here. Now I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is because this is construction, there will be some minor inconveniences. The good news is that they are only temporary. Water. The project includes replacement of small diameter water lines, and temporary service disruption may be experienced when the contractor is connecting the new water lines to the existing water system, and when the water services are transferred to the new water lines. Similarly, the sanitary sewer replacement and rehabilitation is included in the scope of this project. Temporary wastewater service disruptions may be experienced when the contractor is reconnecting services to the new rehabilitated sewer lines. The contractor will give notice 72 hours in advance of water and sanitary sewer service interruptions. Trees. Trees to be removed or identified on the tree protection plan posted to the project page on engagehouston.org. Diseased or dying trees will be removed. The City of Houston has identified trees that can be preserved during construction on a case-by-case basis. Both the city and the contractor are taking every precaution to protect existing trees and properties as best they can. Additional right-of-way markers may be placed along the curb and sidewalk or driveway area, and removal of these causes added delays and expense. Please do not remove these markers or any protective precautions that may have been provided to the adjacent property. Parking and driveway access. Individual driveways may be impacted for several days during the construction process. Once construction begins on a street, the contractor will give 72 hours in advance notice if they need to work on a specific driveway. Bus services will be coordinated with the contractor. Trash and other services will still be available during construction. The traffic control plan can also be found on the project page at engagehouston.org. We encourage you to go to engagehouston.org to view additional project details. The project page includes additional exhibits, the traffic control plan, the tree protection plan, right at your fingertips. And now a brief demo on how to navigate your way on engagehouston.org.
Welcome to engagehouston.org. We're incredibly excited to share this platform with you. This site allows us to communicate with Houstonians about the changes that are happening in their neighborhood. Our goal is to make the site visually fun and engaging, as well as easy to navigate so that everyone can find what they need. Using the Google Translate option, users can translate the languages used on the website. On the home screen, you can navigate the 4 project types that we support: drainage, street, wastewater, and water projects. Beneath that, you're going to see a variety of resources. All of these resources can also be found up here in our header. For all public meetings, we send out notifications to the community, and one way to access the meeting link is to click on the Join Us button. Another great thing about this website is that we have enabled social media shares. Users can share meeting links, project pages, and updates to their social media feed through private messages and/or email. This helps us in getting more information out to the community. Here's a snapshot of all the relevant project information on the project page. It shows a standard map which highlights the project area and general project information, which may be followed by a link. Below are the project's frequently asked questions. To the right, you're going to see a variety of widgets. First is the Stay Informed Subscribe button. This allows a user to subscribe to this project, meaning that if this project is of great interest, all it requires is inputting your email address. You'll be notified via email when updates are posted to the page or when new information becomes available. You'll also see the current project phase, as well as the project documents, meeting recordings, videos, and pictures. Underneath that, you'll be able to view who's listening and who the public engagement team is. At the bottom of the page, there's the Engage Us tool, which allows you to correspond directly with us through this platform. In order to use this tool, you must be registered and signed into the site. Once you're signed in, you can ask questions and they're sent directly to the public engagement team. We research and provide a response to every single question that is asked. We encourage everyone to register for the site. Some of the tools we discussed earlier can only be utilized if you're registered, so it is extremely important to register. We've made it simple, quick, and as painless as we could. Just create a simple username and password and answer 3 basic questions, and you're good to go. You'll receive a confirmation email, so don't forget to confirm your email address so that you don't miss out on all of the updates. And now you're done. You're all set up to utilize engagehouston.org and all of its beneficial tools.
Know the contractor. They are your first point of contact. They are the boots on the ground every day. They are capable to assist you immediately. Remember that Main Lane Industries contact information will also be on your door hanger and on the last page of the frequently asked questions posted on engagehouston.org. We want you to hear from the contractor. So at this time, allow me to introduce you to Jeff Heflin to say a few words about Main Lane Industries. Jeff?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jeff Heflin. I'll be the project manager, senior PM on the project. A little bit about Main Lane. We're been around. Most of the guys have been doing this stuff for combined experience of 50, 60, 70 years in the waterline business. So we're very well familiar with this project and have worked in areas very similar to what we're getting ready to do. So we have a really good project team that we've assembled, put together to handle all the day-to-day operations. So if you guys need anything, y'all have my contact info, so feel free to give me a call.
Thank you, Jeff. We encourage you to call 311 if you have questions or concerns. You can report online, email, or yes, there's an app for that. You can also email the public engagement team directly at buildforward@houstontx.gov or on engagehouston.org, and we will expeditiously get the answers you need. We always like to hear if our contractors are doing a good job as well, so please share that with us too. I want to thank District C for their support today, Marcos Mengesha and his awesome project team for their participation and support. Thank you to the fabulous public engagement team for making this meeting possible. And finally, to all of you who have joined us to receive this important project information. Thank you for your time and attention. Please remember to share what you heard today with your friends and neighbors who could not join us for this meeting. And now it's Q&A time. Being present has its benefits. Why, you ask? Because you will get your questions answered in real time by the fantastic project team. Take advantage now and ask away. The project team is here to answer your questions. At this time, I would like to introduce you to Timothy Williams with the fabulous public engagement team who will moderate the Q&A session for us. Take it away, Tim.
I certainly will, and thank you once again, Kenya, for that very, very great presentation. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Q&A portion of our meeting. It's very beneficial in that it allows you to ask those pressing questions that we know you have. The instructions for submitting your questions and comments are on the screen. We first select Q&A on the right side of the screen. It's the bubble with the question mark in the middle. Then you want to type your question into the compose box and then select send. You can remain anonymous by selecting ask anonymously. So go ahead and begin submitting them now. And as you're doing that, please note that this marks the beginning of the Q&A process. If you have any questions or comments beyond today's meeting, please submit them to us by visiting engagehouston.org. You would go to the project page, and there at the bottom, you can submit your question or comments, and we'll be sure to follow up with you. I'd also like to remind you that all of tonight's meeting material is available on the site as well. Okay. First question. What is involved in phase one? And I'll just present this question to the project team, and you all can just sort of knock it down for us. So the first question is, what is involved in phase one? What takes place in phase one?
This is PK here. I would like to answer that question. Phase one is a miniature in itself for the whole project. When I say the miniature, it's the same as the project scope, which is the construction of the 72-inch water line, in addition to removing and replacing the existing pavement along with sidewalks, wheelchairs, ramps, and also any kind of removal and installation of existing water lines and sewer lines inside phase one. So the project scope remains the same. The overall scope is to construct the 72-inch water line with replacing the existing pavement from right-of-way line to right-of-way line.
Okay, thank you. The next question, what about irrigation that we have installed in the right-of-way? So they'd like to know what to do with the irrigation, or what would take place, or what should take place with irrigation that they have installed in the right-of-way.
The irrigation line, yes, the irrigation lines need to be documented. Whatever sprinkler heads that you got for those irrigation lines need to be documented, and any kind of damage or repair need to be informed to the project team or the inspector who is inspecting the project, so that the contractor will be able to restore those irrigation lines to the existing conditions or better once after the project is complete. So the documentation is an important aspect. But if those irrigation lines are in conflicting with the existing construction, we advise you to take those irrigation lines and move it back from the right-of-way line to inside in your property. The contractor will be able to give that notification if that conflicts the work that he is trying to propose out there.
Great, thank you for that response. And that segues into the next question, which is, and we sort of touched on it, can you give a deeper explanation of right-of-way? Can you break that down for us and explain right-of-way?
The right-of-way is usually from the lot line, the private line for the private property, all the way to. So basically, it's 2 feet from the back of the curb to all the way to 2 feet back of the curb on the other side, on the opposing line, So that's it changes. It tapers around here and there. It's not consistent, but basically from 2 feet from back of the curb to 2 feet back of the curb in the opposite direction. It's not consistent across the board, unless UR has found out any variations.
Thank you. And when we say right-of-way, we're saying basically the public right-of-way, or the area in which we can actually go in and actually make those improvements, because that's essentially city property, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Tim, this is Manny. I'm from the design team and Single Pulse team. Just want to make just a small clarification. It's 2 feet from the typical sidewalk. So in this case, typically a right-of-way is 50 or 60 foot wide. And if you see any power poles out there, they typically install those power poles about 1 foot inside the street right-of-way. So that kind of gives you an indication of where typically, in not all cases, but where the property line or where the public right-of-way is located. So it's typically 2 feet from the existing sidewalk. Not always. Sometimes the sidewalk does meander, but power post probably gives you a good indication. I just wanted to clear that up because it is a little bit wider than just the back of curb.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And to the person who submitted that question, you can submit your email address to us if you'd like us to look at your specific driveway and you'd like a specific answer with regard to the right-of-way in front of your residence. Okay, the next question is, will the pipe run down the middle of the street? Will the pipe run down the middle of the street?
Not always, but as the alignment can shift here and there, but it should be most of the alignment should be underneath the pavement, from face of the curb to the face of the curb.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how will sprinklers at the street be affected? How will sprinklers at the street be affected?
The same as we answered the irrigation lines, document it take pictures of those sprinkler heads, any kind of disturbance or damage to those sprinkler heads need to be the responsibility of the contractor to fix it as per the existing conditions are better. And if possible, if these sprinkler heads are in conflict with the construction of the water line, they need to be removed back from the right-of-way line to inside the private property. So I believe these sprinkler heads are currently located in the private property itself. So it should not be an issue. That's what my guesswork is.
Okay, and thank you. Okay, we have another question regarding phases. They want to know if we can describe each phase so that they can better understand the project. And I would say maybe just give an overview as to what you anticipate would take place phase to phase for the project.
As I said earlier, Tim, there is no big difference between phasing to phasing. Most of the time, these phasings are done keeping in view the kind of work that would be done from intersection to intersection, so that the traffic control plan will remain intact for the construction to progress based upon the construction feasibility. So when I say traffic control plan, so it would be easier to shut down from one intersection to one other intersection for one lane, leaving the other lane open for traffic, while the opposing traffic coming to the location conflicting the construction would be detoured. So that's the kind of practicality in phasing this out. But the scoping, as I said earlier, is typically the same as the miniature of the overall project, which is the construction of 72-inch water line with removing and replacing the existing pavement, including sidewalks and wheelchair ramps. So based upon the construction feasibility, these phases are provided so that each individual work can be executed with no impact to the traffic control plan or the way the traffic moves, the way traffic is detoured, and the way the traffic can be routed. Gotcha. If it does make sense, it's a complexity of different variables that is taken into consideration when they put this kind of phasing inside there. I would say in one term, the construction feasibility.
Okay, so there's similar work being done phase to phase, but we created phasing to allow us to do it in the most efficient way and to stay on track with the construction timeline.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Keeping in traffic impacts and other impacts as well.
Okay, thank you. The next question, how do we coordinate the installation of special drives, or in our case, pea gravel? How do we coordinate the installation of special drives, or in our case, pea gravel?
See, the same thing as Kenya mentioned in her presentation, the City of Houston contractor is only required to restore those concrete driveways to the city's codes and standards, which is the concrete driveway in itself. So we are not going to provide any driveways which are specialty driveways or decorative driveways like pea gravels and so on and so forth. The city code and ordinances call for concrete driveways. The city contractor is only obliged to put the concrete driveways in place. However, if the private owner, the private resident, or the citizens would like to have the pea gravels installed, they have to coordinate with the city contractor and also their own contractor, whoever they would like to hire, to come forth during the time when the driveway will be restored to have that pea gravel restored at their own expense, if that makes sense.
It does. So okay. This will require extensive coordination with the contractor in order to
exactly coordination with whenever the contractor gives the notification that there will be some work being done on the private owner's lot for their driveway, they need to start coordinating with their own contractor, if possible, to hire a new contractor, come to the location and restore their driveway to a pea gravel driveway, however, at their own expense.
Okay. Okay. And should that private contractor begin work before our contractor finalizes that, or are they?
Once the contractor tears down the driveway and then he moves ahead which is construction,
Mhm.
further down, then the private contractor can go ahead and restore the driveway. Or else they would be able to talk to our own contractor as themselves to upgrade that driveway to pea gravel, paying additional expense for the contractor to restore that to a pea gravel.
Okay.
They can
Gotcha.
they can deal with our own contractor too, but that's up to them. That's their own deal.
Gotcha. Thank you. The next question has to do with service disruption, specifically dealing with water. How long will we be without water or driveway access? Estimation of amount of time, please. So they're asking for an estimated amount of time in which they would be without water or access to the driveway.
So without water, it should be few hours because the majority of that is a transfer of those service lines to the new lines that are being installed underneath the pavement. Okay, so that notification will be given by the contractor 72 hours before the work commences in that location. So that's a few hour disruption of services for water lines. For concrete driveways and so on and so forth, as soon as the contractor finishes the job, installs the water line, and tries to move ahead down the lane, so he needs to finish the restoration work. So it all depends on how sooner that phase of the work will be done by the construction contractor. But eventually, the contractor is required to provide 24/7 access to all private residents and owners, the access to their private properties. So that should be the responsibility of the contractor. So there is no worry on terms of the residents feeling that their driveway is not in a good condition. They could not park it, they could not access it, but the contractor is required to provide an interim solution for them to park, for them to stay away from that disturbed driveway.
Gotcha. And in the event of a water disruption or planned water disruption, we do provide a 48-hour advance notification, correct?
Exact, 72 hours at least.
72 hours, okay.
Yes.
That's even better. Okay, thank you. Next question, the traffic plan indicates the closure of one side of the street and creating a one-way vehicle drive lane in the construction zone. For the safety of residents and work crews, will the speed limits in the construction zone be reduced to 20 miles per hour from 30 miles per hour?
So Manny, does it call to reduce it in our traffic control plans?
PK, I need to go back on the traffic control. If we provide signage on that, I think I got Sudhir on the line. I don't know if he recalls.
Yeah, Manny, we are not reducing any speeds, PK, on this project because it's already 30 miles per hour. Generally, if it's more, that's when it is needed. And these were all residential streets, mainly along Kipling and Branard. And we have only one lane open, so we didn't want to back it up even more.
Okay, so the traffic speed limits will remain the same, the 30 miles per hour. Yes. Because one lane will be free for traffic all the time, 24/7.
Not all the time. So the purpose of while they're working, this is during construction activities. You may have some construction equipment that whether it's trucks or so forth, that may utilize that single lane, but they can move out of the way. So the purpose of that is to provide access. Not only for emergency vehicles, they can move on a spot notice and have access to that. But at the end of the day, there should be at least one lane access so that residents have access to their homes.
And the opposing traffic will have a detour, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
Thanks for clarification.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, will the streets that will be repaved be lowered to their correct level? So many streets are domed, and when it rains, we flood. The streets are in places as much as, 2 feet higher than the curb. Will the streets that will be repaved be lowered to their correct level?
I guess I can take that, or Sudhir, you can jump in, but we are regrading some of these streets so that the intent is for it to drain towards the curb and gutter. I don't recall how it's not as bad as the previous project, but I think we made some regrading. Also, we also complied with the most latest drainage criteria that the city had that was post Harvey. So we did take a lot of these things into account. But as far as the grades, that's the intent, is for it to drain towards the street and into the curb and gutter and into the inlets.
Yeah, Tim, what Manny said is true. I think mainly this question is coming along Kipling, where we have a lot of overlay. So the center of the street has risen and the curb almost is gone into the dirt there. So we're holding the right-of-way elevations there so that it's close to the curb. And at those locations where you have those bumps in the middle of the street, those will be regraded to the standard 2% city cross-section. And at those locations, there will be a lowering of the road in the middle of the street. But overall, we're holding the curb. So there will be a gutter, which is not visible at some of the locations. I think the residents are questioning about that. Yes, we will be regrading it to make it right for the drainage.
Okay, there will be a positive drain towards the curb inlets by lowering it so that there will not be sacks located to hold water in it. Correct?
Yes, PK, that's true.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. And the next question is, for businesses that are closed on weekends, is it possible to limit the water and sewer disruptions to the weekend? And can you ensure that cross streets, Mulberry, for example, remain open? So can you limit the water and sewer disruptions to the weekend and ensure that cross streets, Mulberry, for example, remain open?
Yeah, as I said, Tim, as I said earlier, these water and sewer disruptions would be for a minimal time, maybe a few hours in a day, okay? 2 or 3 hours at a max, because all it requires is just a transfer of services from the old lines to the new lines. So it won't take much of a time. But if it's required, we'll coordinate with the contractor to make those things happen, especially for those businesses. They're really busy to let it happen during a non-working day or a not during a peak time. Yeah, we can coordinate with the contractor.
Gotcha. Thank you. The next question: this 72-inch water line is supposed to be installed by the trenchless method. Please explain how this will work.
Some parts. Yes, go ahead, Manny.
No, go ahead, PK. I was reading another question here, but go ahead, PK.
Okay, so there are locations where, like intersections, where kind of doing an open cut is not a feasible idea, because intersections usually have traffic coming in all directions. So we don't want to shut down the intersection itself. Those are critical zones. So in those areas, we intend to do tunneling by means of constructing shafts, big shafts, on either side of the intersection, and try to bore across underneath the bottom by installing by an equipment called tunnel boring machine, and then drilling across underground creating a void and installing a steel casing and installing a water pipe underneath it. So this is the methodology to construct a water line not disturbing the surfacial features. If you go with an open cut, that would cause tremendous delays for traffic, a lot more issues related to congestion, and so on and so forth. So at all particular in major intersections that you see in these designs, the tunneling operations are underground, trenchless construction is a methodology to be followed for constructing the water line.
Thank you. The next question is, will driveway grade and angle of descent remain the same? We've had a similar project in front of our old house. After driveway was rebuilt, the grade of the driveway became steeper, and as a result, all of our cars started scratching the street when backing out of the driveway.
So there are certain minimum and maximum driveway grades per city of code ordinances that the engineer of record need to abide by so that scraping of things for the cars would not happen. So basically the restoration of these driveways would be per those standards set in forth in the city of code of ordinances or city of code of specifications that we have. So EOR is obliged to follow. Anything Sudhir, you would like to add to it?
Yeah, PK, that's true. We have went with that. There are locations on this project where the existing driveways are steep, and we have to maintain the standard mainly for the drainage of the street itself. For that, we have gone for the variances on some, but we are within that limits of the city recommended maximum elevation.
Okay, so basically they all follow the city of code of standards to be in the minimum and maximum limits of the driveway grades, so that scraping and then the drainage issues will not be impacting the restored driveways.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. The next question is, what is the revised traffic plan for the Annunciation Orthodox School student drop-off and pickup on Kipling Street?
So I believe that is on the sister project, Tim. The start of this project is Mount Vernon. But the 134 project involves the school. Now, if there's some additional coordination that needs to occur, we definitely do need to address that during construction and get with them. But this involves the previous project.
Got you. So what we'll do.
And by the way, they've been contacted, and so the other contractor, not Jeff, which is Harper Brothers, has either been in touch with the Orthodox school,
Okay.
or will be shortly.
Okay. Okay.
And they are aware of the project. So
gotcha. So there's coordination already taking place.
yes,
Gotcha.
and
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, what is the purpose of this water line? Is it a wastewater line, a drinking water line, or a drainage line?
So this is a drinking water line. The purpose of this water line is to serve southwest quadrant of the city of Houston, including the Texas Medical Center, to provide the domestic water supply to the southwest quadrant of the city of Houston system. And this project will serve a redundancy and reliability for the city of Houston water system.
Okay, thank you. The next question, do you have a construction start date for the section along Kipling west of Mount Vernon? Do you have a construction start date for the section along Kipling west of Mount Vernon?
So the NTP date as of today is 12th of October. By tomorrow, the construction should start, but eventually the residents would not be seeing that to happen because the contractor need to mobilize. It will take certain amount of time, maybe a month or so. Maybe early end of November or early December, they see some construction operations getting kicked in. So early December of 2022 is where they would really see something happening out there. Meantime, contractor will be mobilizing. They will be doing some prep work, so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Will the construction equipment and materials be maintained behind the construction barriers? Will the contractor personnel be allowed to park their personal vehicles outside this designated area, for example, on a public street? Will the construction equipment and materials be maintained behind the construction barriers? Will the contractor personnel be allowed to park their personal vehicles outside this designated area, for example, a public street?
No, usually majority of the time, usually contractor is required to use the city of right of way for his construction operations. Okay, he would not be allowed to park his vehicle or equipment or whatever it is on the private lots. That's not allowed. So majority of this thing happens in the right of way itself, which is the city of Houston right of way. Clear enough, Timothy?
That's clear enough. That's clear enough.
Sure.
Thank you. I noticed that along Hawthorne, cuts were made along the sidewalk. They were filled with asphalt. Is this what we can expect for this project?
Timothy, can you repeat the question again?
Sure. The question says, I noticed that along Hawthorne, cuts were made along the sidewalk. They were filled with asphalt. And they want to know, is this what they can expect for this project? They believe that when the cuts were filled, it was done in a sloppy fashion, and they want to know, is this what they can expect for this project?
No, this is not they can expect from this project, because sidewalks are basically concrete poured, and eventually between a sidewalk and sidewalk there is an expansion joint, and an expansion joint will have some wood and sawdust and some binding material to it, attached to it. So other than that, you don't see extensive amount of asphalt being used on concrete sidewalks. This would not happen.
Okay, thank you. The
Tim,
next, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify, sometimes they might see that, residents might see that even for the streets or for the sidewalks, when the contractor puts that, that's for a temporary purpose. When he's still working and his restoration is not complete, they might see asphalt or gravel on the sidewalk or there, so that they can maintain access. So that those are temporary driveways or temporary sidewalks they maintain during construction. But at the end of the construction, everything would be restored, as PK mentioned, to concrete sidewalks and concrete roadways.
Perfect.
So probably the question in place is that some temporary detours would have been those kind of asphalt, and when they were trying to do those temporary detours in a construction zone, probably they poured some asphalt. You call that dark, some asphalt on the sidewalk as well. So it's a kind of construction kind of issue. It's not the means and methods of constructing a sidewalk.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Okay, the next question is, how deep and wide will the typical open cut excavations be? And how long will they remain open before backfilling? Will the excavated material be removed from the construction zone or stockpiled on site?
Manny, you'd like to give an approximate based upon the plans, what depth we got?
I'm sorry, can you read that question again, Tim? I
Sure,
kind
no
of missed
problem.
part of it.
No problem. The question is, how deep and wide will the typical open cut excavations be? And how long will they remain open before backfilling? Will the excavating material be removed from the construction zone or stockpiled on site?
Yeah, so Jeff can kind of chime in if I misstate something here, but typically these excavations are about 10 feet at the shallowest. They may be deeper in certain locations, but 10 feet deep to the trench. And as far as the width for 6 foot, we're looking at about a 9 to 10 foot wide trench. So it is not it's definitely not a small pipe. It's a challenge, but that's a typical width. So hopefully I didn't misstate something there, Jeff.
Okay, yes, typically, usually, you know, the pipe size is 72 inch, which is 6 feet. And usually when you do open cuts for these kind of pipe widths, usually you have a 4 feet additional clearance to have an open cut. So the width would be 10 feet, and the shallowest region, as mentioned by Manny, is 10 feet that you're going, if going by an open cut. And 10 by 10 feet is a normal open cut rectangular cross section that you can see as an open cut on the street. In addition to the second question, whatever material that has been removed from the open cut portion of it will be backfilled back into that trench, compacted and restored to the normal ground or grade elevations for the drawings.
Correct. And
yes.
Yeah, and whatever spoil that is left over, the contractor owns that dirt. So, you know, obviously when you put a 70 foot, a 6 foot diameter pipe, there is going to be excess dirt that is left over. That would be hauled off from the project site. But they do use the in situ material, which is the material they take out. They're required to compact it per the specifications with the certain compaction requirement, and then restore the site. So, but that's typically what is done. When I said 10 feet deep, the cover of the pipe would be about approximately 7 feet from the natural ground to the bottom. So it's the trench width is going to, the bottom would be at least 10 feet in depth.
So at a minimum,
you're right.
Go ahead,
You're
Jeff.
right, Manny. I mean, the majority of this is 12 to 15 foot depth. You know, and then obviously you're going to dip and go under intersections and existing utilities, but most of it will be 12 to 15 foot depth cut. And all the material that is not put back in the trench will be hauled off by us.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. All right, well, thank you for the clarification on that. And I'll move to the next question. So the next question goes back to phasing. It says if phase one includes everything, why are areas included in phase one also impacted by multiple phases?
PK, I can take that, Tim.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sudhir.
Yeah, on phase one is the 72 inch, as PK mentioned, the 72 inch water line is the actual project. As part of that, we are doing small diameter water line too. We have to replace some of the sanitary and storm for conflict mitigation, and the pavement will be replaced. So as part of phase one, mainly the contractor will be replacing the small diameter water lines and moving the sanitary and storm lines that are in conflict. So there was an earlier question about where the location of the actual 72 inch water line, will it be in the middle of the street? No, it won't be in the middle of the street. It will be on one side of the pavement. So on that side, if there is an existing conflict with the other existing utilities, those would be relocated to the other side. So that would be mostly the phase one that you see in orange over there is the small diameter water line, sanitary sewers and storm sewers, and that paving, if the contractor wishes to build it that way, say mainly along what you see there, green, red, those are along the east and westbound. The 72-inch water line is on the south side, and along Woodhead, it's on the east side, and on Greenbrier, it's on the west side. So along the north side on Kipling and Branard, on the west side of Woodhead, that would be phase 1, where the small diameter water line and the sanitary and storm would be relocated and the pavement will be built. Then the large diameter water line would be the heavy hauling of this project mainly. So residents would be seeing construction activity from the contractor once he gets his notice to proceed and has mobilized crew and material. So that would be phase 1, and phase 2 mainly would be all the other colors, which would be the 72-inch water.
Okay, thank you for clarification on that. The next question, we have the construction phasing map, so that'll assist us in answering this one. It says Woodhead Street had both orange and yellow markings. When will the project affect those of us on Woodhead at the 3900 block?
Yeah, that would, I think, Tim, there's were y'all going to upload the phasing plan
Yes,
into the website?
Sure. So as of now, that material is located on the website, and we do see that where Woodhead, we do see the shaded areas there, indicating where it falls along in terms of phasing. What we can do is get the email address of this specific citizen, and we can reach out to them for that specific.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move to the next.
Sorry. Yeah. Since you mentioned those two colors, I think the orange, as I mentioned before, that would be for the small diameter water line. That shouldn't be much of a issue for them. The majority of the work would be for the yellow, but of course, phase 1, they would be doing paving on the west side of Woodhead, and then on east sides. As Kenya has mentioned, these dates are estimates, and we'll get the actual the contractor will give us the schedule, and we will be able to update them later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, the next question is, I live on the corner of Kipling and Woodhead. Will sidewalk and median be involved on the Woodhead side and Kipling side? I live on the corner of Kipling and Woodhead. Will the sidewalk and median be involved on the Woodhead side and Kipling side?
I'm not sure what the question means about the median, because there is no median. You know, it's primarily residential streets on Kipling. On Woodhead, you got, you know, some of these residential structures here. But what we can say is that we are replacing the full width of the pavement as well as the sidewalk. Along Woodhead, it's a little bit of a challenge because you have almost a zero setback line, especially on the west side. And the driveway and the garage is right there. But the intent is to go from right-of-way to right-of-way, replace with, you know, the sidewalks and the pavement as well.
Okay, got you. Thank you. The next question is, will environmental monitoring be implemented to ensure compliance with project environmental plans and parameters, noise, particulate levels of noise, and gases? So they wanted to know what our plan is with regard to the environmental concerns.
Okay, so particularly related to noise, we have city ordinance not to exceed 85 decibels of noise levels. The contractor is required to be within those limits when during construction, and open cut does not produce that kind of decibels. At a max, when during tunneling operations, it can be near to 75 or 80, but still contractor is obliged to follow the specifications and the limit below that statutory limit for the city of Houston ordinances. That's related to noise. And anything related to environmental, we have stormwater pollution prevention plans and so on and so forth that contractor needs to maintain on site, not to leave debris to the public waterways and other systems nearby, and any other environmental regulations that need to be followed per TCQ.
Does that cover gases? They reference gases as well. Does that cover any concern related to gases?
Gases, I don't see any gases being liberated
Okay.
by the type of construction that we are trying to handle at this location.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much. The next question, how will delivery and emergency access be maintained?
Well, I can take this here. So at all times, the contractors required to have a minimum 10-foot lane, emergency access lane through the project. Now, that's not to say that they may not have a dump truck there that would occupy that area so that they can bring in, whether the spoils, remove the spoils or bring in some of the backfill. But they should be able to move that equipment on a moment's notice if there is an emergency. Or if there's cars trying to move, they'll work with the traffic flow there. At the end of the day, when there's no construction activities that are going on, they must maintain one way or one lane access so that residents have access to their homes, and that includes any emergency that would occur. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, contractor is obligated to provide access not only to the residents and businesses owners to their properties, but also to all emergency vehicles that need access through his construction zone. So that falls back to the contractor's responsibility to provide the same at any event.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. The next question, Montrose Terrace 27 has an ongoing neighborhood Safe Streets project on Hawthorne and Woodhead Streets, which includes street and sidewalks replacement work. This project impacts the work planned on Woodhead Street, scheduled to be completed during the same time frame. How will this waterline upgrade project be coordinated with this project?
Yeah, that project has been coordinated already. The engineer for that project has already has been in touch and has reached out to us, so they are very aware about the project that is occurring. So what is going to happen is that they'll do all the other sidewalks on Hawthorne is not on this project limits, it's on the adjacent project, but they'll leave out this where our alignment is and wait until our construction will restore that with the sidewalks as required by this contract or this construction package.
Gotcha. Thank you. The next question is, we have drains at the rear of our property which discharge to the street. The rear of our property requires drainage to street due to subsidence and would otherwise flood in heavy rain. While the street, curb, and sidewalk is under construction, the drains may be clogged. How will property drainage be addressed during 18 months of construction?
Yeah, that's something that we need to look at, Sudhir, and I don't know if we tried to identify all the outlets. Those are the 4-inch. Sometimes there's 4-inch PVC that break into the concrete curb. Typically, we will replace those, but I don't recall if we identified many of those. So that may be something that we may need Tim to address on this case by case basis.
Okay, Timothy, to add to this, contractor has a responsibility to maintain good housekeeping practices for the contract. Okay, so any kind of debris left on site need to be cleaned and kept in proper condition. So as to that point, he needs to make sure those drains drain to the street at all times without impeding, impounding, or blocking the drainage flow across to the street. Answer my question?
Yes, no, that works. And Manny, once we get that information, we can post that to Engage Houston and update the public.
Yeah, and PK is correct. I mean, that is in the construction documents, and that's a requirement that the contractor has to follow. That's as far as making sure that they don't inadvertently block any kind of drainage, and if they do that, we ask them to get in touch with the project team and the contractor or the inspector to let them know that's happening.
So that is on the radar. Thank you, PK and Manny, for the response on that one.
So no one can impede, impound, or block the drainage across to the adjacent streets. That's the clause.
Correct. Thank you. The next question is, the storm sewers were recently upgraded on our street. Why was this done earlier this year, since it now seems that this will be torn up and redone at additional expense?
Which streets are we talking about here?
They said the storm sewers are recently upgraded on. They didn't actually state a street. So we'll ask that citizen to resubmit that. Let us know which street you're referencing and submit your email address, and we'll follow up with you afterwards and answer that question for you.
Yeah, one thing that I can just add to that, Tim, is that a lot of these inlets are the smaller inlet throats. The throats are like 2.5 feet in length, and the current standard is the 5 foot. So they're we call them the BB inlets, so the larger catch basins. And so we're replacing along the routes and upgrading that to the current standard. So with the larger throats and larger capacity, we're able to carry off the runoff much quicker. So.
All right, thank you. Next question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to add to that is, we know there were recent projects which we have coordinated earlier. There were projects along Shepherd and McDuffie where there was some drainage work done, and we have coordinated with that project. And we are not ripping off any newly installed lines, but as Manny mentioned, at some intersections, we are completely rebuilding, like McDuffie and Branard intersection will be rebuilt. So any new inlets they might have put, we will redo those again, but we couldn't let that be left in part of that project. Otherwise, until this project gets done, we would have drainage issues. So that's one location I know of, but all the projects that were going on at that time, either design or construction, have been coordinated, and no new storm lines that have been laid are being replaced as part of this project, except at the intersections as I mentioned.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay, the next question. Will detour signage be used to direct traffic to other streets, i.e. Harold and Marshall, while Kipling is under construction? So they're asking about the traffic, sort of the traffic plan.
The short answer is yes. We would be utilizing the local traffic to detouring that traffic to those streets.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. The next question: will the street surface be asphalt or concrete when complete?
Definitely concrete.
Gotcha. Thank you. Simple enough. Next question is Jeff Heflin the primary point of contact for residents for the project, should they have any questions or concerns?
Yes,
Jeff,
I'll be that person.
yeah, Jeff may have a superintendent. Is that somebody that you want to?
Yeah, no, we'll have, so there'll be a full-time project manager on the job, and then we'll have a full-time superintendent on the job also. The superintendent will be the person out there on a day-to-day basis. So as the residents have questions and he's not on the job site, right? I mean, the easiest thing to do would be talk to that person, and all that contact information will be given, once we start doing the door hangers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is Ryan. Ismail and I's contact will be on the door hanger. We'll be out there full time.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, Kipling and Woodhead intersection is prone to deep street flooding. Will measures be taken to manage storm flooding? Will measures be taken to manage storm flooding? And they're referencing specifically Kipling and Woodhead.
I'll let Sudhir, if you want to take this.
Tim, can you repeat that?
Sure. Question is, I'm sorry, I just went to the next one. So they're wanting to know about
The
storm
drainage, storm drainage at Kipling and Woodhead.
Right, particularly at Kipling and Woodhead.
That it's historically it's flooded in that area. And so one thing that I can tell you is that as part of this project, even though this is primarily a construction of the 72-inch water line, because the footprint is such a large thing, we're also doing storm sewer improvements, and these improvements should alleviate the flooding, the local flooding that would occur on some of these streets. Obviously, we can't take care of something like Harvey, but as far as a typical rainfall, this is, that's something that's that it was designed for, or the improvements.
And as Manny mentioned earlier about the inlet sizes too, Kipling and Woodhead too is one of the locations where we had even the 2-year storm was not being taken care of. So this would bring it up to that 100-year at that location, and we'll have the BB inlet that would alleviate the situation. And we have new storm system along our project ends at that intersection. So we are connecting on to, we have a bigger pipe along Woodhead that would be connecting to the storm sewer system that's flowing north along Woodhead on towards Westheimer. But we'll be making it better than what it was before, for sure.
Gotcha. Thank you. The next question is, in other locations, have there been impacts to adjacent structures? Okay. And foundations.
Can you repeat that question again?
Well, they were wanting to know if there have been impacts to adjacent structures and foundations, particularly on single-family units on Branard Street.
So majority of the construction is going to be inside the right of way, and majority of the construction is open cut. So basically, impact to the foundations or any other structures outside of the right of way, and that too 10 feet or 15 feet deep inside outside of the right of way, will have either zero or very, very minimal effect. That's it.
Okay, thank you. The next question, will the 72-inch water line be connected to any local water lines? And if so, where and what special flow or pressure control valves will be provided?
So this project is it's a transmission line. It's not intended to be a line where, you have ordinary taps. That's where you have some domestic lines, which are smaller. This transmission line actually operates at a much higher pressure. So the residential services come off of the domestic lines, which are the 8-inch, 6-inch, 12-inch water lines. It's providing water to one of the city's 7 pump station that serves this quadrant. And as PK has mentioned previously, it not only serves the Texas Medical Center area, but to this whole quadrant of south of I-10 and west of 288. So it's meant to convey large quantity of water to the pump station, which is located on West Park near the 610 loop.
Okay, thank you. And a follow-up question is, will there be, well, from the citizen, will there be any mainline valves or other control devices in that part of the 72-inch water line? And if
Yes.
so, where?
Yes,
Okay.
they're butterfly, we call them butterfly valves. That's required to have a certain spacing through for this large pipe. So those are primarily underground. We do have air release valves, which, when you have up and downs or the vertical alignment has some local high points where we have to kind of dip underneath the street. Let's say we're crossing a major storm sewer and we have to go under and then come up. You have a localized high point. You may accumulate some air, so that air needs to be dispersed. You may see above ground some of these vent pipings. Those vent pipings, the purpose of that is to expel the air that may accumulate in those high points. It also serves as a transient or a way to disperse any kind of water hammer effect, which I don't want to go into too much of the detail on that, but it's to protect the line. So it serves two purposes: dispel some of the air that's accumulated in the inside the pipe, the high points, and to help protect the pipe during transient events.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. The next question is heavy clay gumbo suitable for pipe backfill?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next question. Why do small diameter water lines need to be replaced?
Either they're at the end of their useful life, or it's a older pipe that is that would easily break if we're in the vicinity, or they need to be relocated so that we can make room for this large diameter water line.
Basically, their service life is over, Timothy, so they need to be replaced.
Gotcha. Okay, well, very well understood. Thank you very much. This concludes the Q&A portion of today's meeting, but I would like to encourage everyone to please continue to engage with us at engagehouston.org. Thank you again to the staff of District C. Thank you to the amazing project team, the amazing engagement team, and certainly the citizens, because you all make this worthwhile. Okay, and
Tim, excuse me,
yes,
this is Cheryl. Yes, I would like to make note that there were quite a few questions that we didn't get to read aloud. We did record them, and all questions that were presented at this meeting will be addressed and posted on Engage Houston. So there may have been some questions that you asked that we didn't get a chance to directly ask the project team during this platform, but rest assured, all questions will be addressed and presented on Engage Houston. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Cheryl. Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and close tonight's meeting. Thank you all again. I'll say go Stros, and everyone have a great night. Thank you.